You know, there's always something that kind of sticks in my craw about hypocrites. They're everywhere in life. They're everywhere in this world. You're going to meet them every day. You yourself will do something that's hypocritical. I will do something that's hypocritical. But there's something especially wrong or especially grating around those who are hypocritical in this holier than thou sense, in a way where the games industry is so in love with smelling their own farts, talking about how they in 2020 are just so much more enlightened. It's pathetic. These people are losers. And there's a particular issue I have with the woke game dev crowd, especially in board gaming, tabletop gaming, that like to rip on H.P. Lovecraft. They call him all sorts of things: a supremacist, a bigot, everything under the sun. Now, this video is not here to defend the views of a man who was born in 1890. 1890. Okay? Yes, imagine every other word capitalized and me saying, oh, well, my views are different in 2020 than this guy's were in 1800s. All these people are happy to call him all sorts of horrible things while profiting off of his work. We can see Vice here, how tabletop RPGs are being reclaimed from the bigots and the jerks. New rulebooks and designer notes are making horror RPGs a more inclusive and healthy hobby. When tabletop role-playing game developer Evil Hat Productions announced it had included a content warning on page 6 of its upcoming Fate of Cthulhu game, many folks praised Evil Hat, but there were also the now predictable tide of BS. Fate of Cthulhu is an upcoming RPG where players take on the role of time travelers trying to stop a Cthulhu-style apocalypse. It's inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, who was racist and anti-Semitic. Vehemently racist and anti-Semitic. Because of that, Evil Hat Publishing has a content warning on page 6 of the Fate of Cthulhu that calls out the author and highlights the work of writers of color who've re-examined and reinterpreted the author's work. Holy crap! All right, excuse me for just a minute as I launch into a rant. You Evil Hat Productions are not so woke. You aren't doing anything special here. In fact, if you actually believed that stuff about H.P. Lovecraft, you're just as bad as anyone else because you're profiting from it. He was so evil and so bad, we're going to virtue signal in a book inspired by his work in which we're going to turn into profit. These people are some of the most transparent, one-dimensional hacks I've ever run into in my life. The gaming industry is full of some of the biggest morons. They think that they're going to put up the suite. And by the way, they were universally praised on Twitter by also low IQ idiots. Look, if you really believe that this guy was so bad, one, why are you profiting off his work? You don't get to do both. You don't get to say, ooh, please retweet my woke hot take about this author, but also then profit from his work. Doesn't work that way. Now, there are plenty of morons in the woke gaming crowd, like the people here at Vice, who refuse to call out that hypocrisy. Nothing wrong with profiting from his work, just as long as you call him a baddie in the process. Here's their tweet. While developing Fate of Cthulhu, we were obligated to reflect on the problematic roots of the source material. The mythos is definitely worth exploring, but also re-examining. You know what, Evil Hat? Why don't you produce your own genre of RPG? Why are you relying on others, especially those that, as you put it, are so evil? Racism and fear of the unknown powered Lovecraft's work. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Yet his work is still compelling to many, including myself. The weirder the world gets, the more popular his work becomes. We can acknowledge the fear behind his imagination while also re-examining what came out of it. That is such a beta cop-out. Oh, I hate that I even said beta. That is such a cop-out. What you're really saying is, we don't have the strength of our convictions. We want to virtue signal all over the place about how this guy was evil, but we still need to eat. You know, it's not like we couldn't go make our own IP or do our own original work. We still need this guy. But we're going to talk about how bad he is. You are such a loser. Oh. I saw this stuff in the Magic the Gathering community all the time. It was so pathetic. Look, when I didn't like what Blizzard did over the Hong Kong thing, you know what I did? I canceled my World of Warcraft subscription. All right? Now, I didn't go out there lecturing, telling other people to do it, but it really isn't that hard. If you're making an RPG, which, by the way, allows you to have an unlimited amount of source material, you are only limited by your own imagination, which apparently here is limited with this company, but you still need to rely on Lovecraft? Such an evil person. The responses were predictable. Thousands of people replied to the tweet. Some praised Evil Hat's decision, while others logged on to defend Lovecraft from criticism and heaped scorn on Evil Hat for daring to point out that a racist was racist. No, that's not what they're doing. Could you be more intellectually dishonest, Matthew Galt? I wonder if a prerequisite for writing for Vice is to be a duplicitous hack. That's not what people are saying. That's not what Evil Hat is doing, by the way. The reason they're getting backlash is because they're out here trying to get the clout for dumping on a guy who was born in 1890 and might have had some unrefined views on people when compared to 100+ years later. But it's that you also want to profit off the dude's work. Since the predictable edgelords and apologists have now shown up, Evil Hat said in response, a quick reminder, if you don't like the politics included in our games, don't buy them. We literally don't want your money. We are committed to diverse and inclusive gaming. We're not perfect, but we're trying. Insert the white savior complex. Khaleesi getting carried across. Get over yourself. Tabletop RPGs are an intimate experience. Players and game masters collaborate to tell stories. Some of those stories can include themes of spicy stuff and a number of horrors, both supernatural and banal. Increasingly, game designers are including guides and content warnings to help players navigate themes responsibly. This is a result of the pussification of America. Okay? I don't care. Dang to the yellow mark. All right? Do we really need everyone to be our mommy and daddy? Do I need the RPG makers to tell me, look out for this, might be a scary theme. You might have something that might upset you. Would you like to sign this consent form before we play D&D? What kind of bubble, what kind of padded room did these people grow up in? What kind of participation trophy life are they trying to live? Evil Hat Productions recently told me they felt it was important to create distance between themselves and Lovecraft, but they still need money from him. I mean, come on. They're not going to not profit. They're not going to not get rich off the guy. That would be ludicrous. We think it's always worth giving both players and game masters a heads up so they can judge for themselves whether this is the type of content they want to explore. No one wants their session to suddenly go sour because the game unexpectedly slips into anxiety-inducing material. Oh my God. That's called excitement. Some of my best D&D games, or when I would play Vampire, things like that, gave me anxiety. That's called immersion. Have you heard of it? If you have panic attacks about things that happen in a D&D game, stop taking your free time to play D&D and spend more time in therapy. Figure that out. Figure out why you're so 10-ply soft, all right? Then come back to the games with mythical monsters and goblins. Not all tabletop RPGs carry the same emotional weight, so there's a big difference between running with a group of friends through Stormking's Thunder and Dungeons and Dragons and running through an apocalyptic horror game like The Fate of Cthulhu, a game I will never purchase. Games like Fate of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade, and Numenaria, are edgier than their high fantasy counterparts. And that's part of the appeal. So it's almost like, I don't know, an adult going into a game might be able to make a decision if they want to play a more serious game or not. I mean, you could play all the Munchkin you want. Nobody's forcing you to play these games. These articles are always written like, oh, I was just an innocent coffee barista when somebody burst into my Starbucks and ripped me from behind the counter and forced me to play D&D. Screw off, Vice. This is the most ridiculous bull article I've ever read. I'm not going to give you any more because here we go. Evil Hat wants to see content warnings become the norm. I don't. Hopefully it's less of a trend and more of a standard practice that beginning to emerge. RPGs are enjoying an unprecedented renaissance, and that's bringing in new and diverse audience. Again, this is another false narrative. The nerddom, real nerds, I'm going to finish on this thought because it always boils my piss. Real nerds are the most inclusive people I have ever met. They didn't care about your skin color. They didn't care about your family's financial status. They didn't even care that you shower. All right? Nerds love their games. It's about the game above all else. And what this article is writing or implying is that gamers have a problem with POCs or gay folks, which has never in my life been the case. I've been playing games longer than this dude's probably been alive. And it's never been an issue. It's a fabricated straw man argument so outlets like Vice can write this drivel and take backhanded shots at traditional gamers. Quote, it's both incorrect and irresponsible to assume that everyone playing is a 28-year-old white guy from Wisconsin. From our point of view, to be truly committed to welcoming new players of the hobby, including content notices like this, encouraging the use of safety tools, is one step in putting our money where our mouth is. Yeah, all the money you made off that horrible, horrible man HP Lovecraft. You absolute hypocrites.